Greetings, my beautiful YouTube family and friends. I hope you all are well and doing fantastic. Today we are doing a throwback to my very first video, which was a lamb pilau. Rice dish from East Africa, very flavorful. We are today 300,000 plus family members strong. And I would like us to celebrate this moment by going back to our humble beginnings. Sometimes it's good to do that, to remind you of where you started, to keep you in check and grounded. Let's do it together, friends and family. It's going to be amazing. Let's start by washing our hands. First and foremost, we need to prepare our pilau masala, which is a combination of half a teaspoon of cardamom pods, half a teaspoon of cumin, 3 star anise, 1 teaspoon of coriander seeds, half a teaspoon of anise seeds, and there will be 3 whole cinnamon sticks that I will add to this masala pretty soon, but I will leave them in their whole form because my grinder will grind them too coarse. If you have cinnamon powder, I recommend using half a teaspoon of that. And now we have our pilau masala, which is going to give us that signature, welcoming, warm aroma, taste, and character of the pilau. And here are the cinnamon sticks, and the rest of the ingredients are half a cup of pine nuts, and I also have half a cup of homemade raisins, the golden and the brown. I will share that recipe with you pretty soon. We also have some serrano chilies, which is optional, but you know I love the kick it brings. You need your garlic for sure, lots of them. Then we also need 4 large onions. That caramelized sweet flavor of the onions is a necessary flavor profile in your pilau. There are 12 cups of jasmine rice. We're using jasmine rice today, but you can use any long grain rice. I also have a combination of chicken and beef broth, homemade, and I also have my homemade all-purpose seasoning. Of course, we need our salt, crushed black pepper to season with, and we cannot proceed without the lamb. I have lamb chops, just like in the very first video I shared with you on YouTube. And the lamb chops I love because they have less fat on them, more meat, and they are very juicy and flavorful. So I am sprinkling half of my pilau masala onto the lamb because we are going to marinate it and let it sit and soak in all those flavors. I'm also adding half of the homemade all-purpose seasoning. Use 2 bouillon cubes. Chicken will be great, even beef as well, even vegetable bouillon will work as well in place of that. Of course, I'm adding some salt, crushed black pepper, and today we're going to be using 3 different kinds of fat. I'm going to be using olive oil, and that is going on right now as part of my marinade so that the dry rub that I just added onto the meat will cling to the meat and start penetrating the muscle of the meat. All right, we're also going to be introducing some vegetable oil to sear the meat eventually, and then of course we're going to add more flavor by adding ghee, store-bought. I will share with you how I make my homemade ghee pretty soon, so keep on watching. So I begin by prepping the ingredients. The onions I'm going to slice really thinly because I am going to be caramelizing them, and I'll take some and put them aside for the end when we're done cooking the pilau. So I like to slice them thinly, but you can also chop them. I do the same thing with the serrano chilies as well as the garlic, and here we go. It is time to cook. My favorite part. All right, so the pot goes onto the fire. We're cooking outside today. What a beautiful day it was. The weather was so lovely and the birds were chirping and singing, and I just wanted to be out there. So here goes the vegetable oil, just enough to coat the bottom of the pan. Let's begin searing. And friends, you know I love to sear my meat, especially when we're cooking a dish like this. Now what you want to do is to place the meat inside the hot oil and leave them alone. Do not flip or turn. Leave them alone for about 3 to 4 minutes. And when you go to flip, what you want to see is that seared color, golden brown. The searing helps to lock in those important juices and flavors. Do the same when you flip them, 3 to 4 minutes on the next side. The cooking must continue, dear beautiful people. So we're going to now add our thinly sliced 1 large onion. I'm using the red one to begin with, as well as the serrano chilies, the garlic, and I'm also going to add the cinnamon right now. So those go in, and then you're going to stir it in. What you want is to have those flavors also become part of the meat, so they will caramelize. So you want to stir them so they also have contact with the oil and the heat in there. And then we're going to cover. All right, the covering will keep and trap those beautiful flavors, fresh aromas that we just added in there and become part of the meat as well. So cover and cook for the next 3 to 4 more minutes. Our fresh aromatics should now be caramelized, sweetened, and there should also now be a complexity in the flavors that are being transformed. The onions have caramelized, and so the sugars in them have become released, also from the garlic as well as the serranos. So there is now the need to go in and deglaze so that we can start forming the sauce that becomes the broth in which the pilau cooks. Now to do that, I have added some of the beef broth just to go in and loosen those caramelized bits on the bottom, and then stir it around, cover it a little bit, and let it cook. Braising is what we're trying to do now to actually tenderize the meat a little more. So we covered it for about 7 minutes, and we went back in and took the lid off, and look at that sauce. The meat is now beautiful, it's tender, and it is juicy. So I take the meat pieces out, as I am doing right now. I can't wait to show you how tender the meat has become. And you saw that sauce now too. That's loads of flavor. Now this sauce here, I'm going to deglaze a little more because again, the sugars are causing the flavors to stick to the pan. So I went in with 1 of my chicken broth. And you see now we're able to loosen all those caramelized bits. Now let me show you how tender and juicy the lamb pieces are. Ooh, can't wait to cook this. Now, because I have deglazed a little more, I'm going to take a little more of the sauce and add it to the meat to keep it nice and moist. And I'm going to set it in the oven. I'm just going to put a foil over it and continue cooking just to keep it warm in the oven. I'm not going to turn the oven on at all. Now I've added the ghee. More flavor. Yes. Don't skimp. Now I've also added the rest of the onions. So these will be the 3 white onions. I started with the red just because that creates more color, and we need that brown, rich color in our pilau. So stir that in. We're cooking until these onions also become caramelized. Now I'm adding the rest of the all-purpose seasoning, and I'm also now adding the rest of the pilau masala. The cinnamon sticks are still in here because there's still a lot of flavor in here that we want to extract. All right, stir it in to combine, let it continue to cook until caramelized. That should take about 5 to 7 minutes. You want to be stirring constantly. Do not worry about the brown that's going on the base of the pan. That's lots of flavor, and we will be loosening those pretty soon. So I've taken a little bit of the onions that are caramelized and placed them on the meat, and they're going back into the oven to keep warm. You see that we need to deglaze some more, so I've added the rest of my broth. I'm going to stir until all those caramelized bits are released and become part of the sauce that becomes the broth in which the pilau cooks. There is the broth. We will be adding the rice pretty soon. Now, if you know good pilau, you can look at this broth and know this pilau is going to be top notch in its flavors and taste. So here goes the rice, which we have washed thoroughly. So it is devoid of loosened starches. It's going to cook nice and fluffy. That is important. Now, when you add your rice, you want the water to just be enough to cover the rice. We wanted to cook fluffy, so we do not want too much water in there. And that is just enough moisture to cook this rice. So stir it in to combine, and now you want to cover it. Now I'm also going to taste because we want to make sure that it is well seasoned. Seasoning your food is important, y'all. You want your food to taste like what it is, all right? And seasoning helps for you to achieve that. It's so basic, it's kind of standard, but seasoning is important. So we covered the pot and we cooked it on low heat for 15 minutes. Now it's almost dehydrated but still crunchy, so not cooked through. You want to go in and stir it to loosen it, all right? So it's not compact, it's rather filled in the pot. All right, now we're going to trap the steam with our parchment paper. So throw the lid back on. Still on low heat, you're going to continue to cook for about 25 minutes. In the meantime, we're going to make our kachumbari. Kachumbari is Tanzanian language Swahili for really salsa. A chunky salsa, that's all it is. So you need some tomatoes, some onions. I also added some red bell pepper for sweetness. And you want some acid in there. Why acid? You all know the pilau. If you didn't know, you can even tell that it's going to be rich. So in order for us to cut through all that richness, we need that acid and all this freshness. I added some distilled vinegar to the onions and let it sit for about 10 minutes. That helps keep it crunchy and sweeten it even more, and also kind of pickles it, which gives it a really interesting flavor. Try that, you would love it. Now in the meantime, I'm also going to toast my pine nuts. And when you're toasting your pine nuts, you want to stay with it. Don't walk away. It will quickly burn. So toast it until you have some golden brownness that has formed, and you're done. We go back in and stir the rice after 25 minutes and it's almost cooked. Still has a little moisture in it, which is perfect because I'm going to be adding the raisins pretty soon. The raisins I keep in the freezer after I make them at home, and so they are super dry and needing to be rehydrated, so the moisture in there is going to do a great job of that. So stir that in. The raisins give you a pop of sweetness as you enjoy this rich dish with every bite. It is optional, but if you love the sweetness it'll give you, throw those in there. You will not regret it. I'm also going to throw in the meat pieces. I took them out of the oven and now they're going in, including the caramelized onions we reserved. Those will linger in and among the rice grains. They're quite satisfying to bite into with every single bite. Here goes the last piece of lamb chop. And the pine nuts, which are now roasted to perfection, go in as well. And I'm also going to add the rest of the juices to keep everything nice and moist. Whatever needs to be rehydrated will get the opportunity to do exactly that. Now we're going to stir to combine everything. There are a few crunchy bits here and there among the rice, so we're going to cover it, trap the heat again with a parchment paper, and cook for about 10 more minutes. And voila, it will be done. At this moment in time, the air should be blooming with the aromas from the warm spices and the masala we used. You should be having a pleasant experience with the piney, fruity, almost menthol-like flavor you get from the cardamom, warm and earthy aroma of the cumin, the sweet licorice flavor from the star anise and the aniseed, as well as the warmth from that cinnamon, and also that lemony, almost lime flavor you get that's so refreshing from the coriander. They all work together and they are so bold. Perfection. After 15 more minutes of trapping the steam to cook the rice through, it is cooked now to perfection. There should be no crunchy areas except where it should be in the bottom. The kanzo, we call those crunchy cooked rice on the bottom. Kanzo in Ghana. East Africans call it ukoko. In paella, it is called sakarat. It's beautiful. Now we are adding the last few finishing touches to our kachimbari, which is our chunky salsa. So I've added some red wine vinegar, salt, and crushed black pepper. And also to brighten the flavors, I have also now added the juice of half a lime, stirred it in, and we're serving. What an upgrade, even in the recipe as well as my confidence level. Comparing this video with the very first video I ever shared on YouTube. It is linked below if you want to watch it. It is the same recipe as this one with a few upgrades here and there. I couldn't have ever come this far without the support and the love I have received from each and every one of you. I thank God for bringing you all my way. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave me some feedback. Let me know what you think. Also, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Share this video. Tell your friends about it, your family and your loved ones. Spread the word. I always say that. The good word about Nanaba's Kitchen. What a pleasure it is to be serving you all. I appreciate you again and again and again. Make it a great day, y'all, and have fun, especially in that kitchen. Asante sana to all of you.